Hey, everybody, welcome back. As you all know, I am Jennifer Bulbrook with I Am Somebody, and my co host, Isabel Bradburn Jackson with Dear Divine Goddess. And we're here together putting together this beautiful docu-series called Lost Souls Initiative, where we're taking people's stories and sharing them with the world. And today we get to welcome Dan with us. Dan is a huge men's mental health advocate, from my understanding, and the founder of something called Project Jeb, which I'm sure we will hear all about very shortly. So, welcome, Dan. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on. Uh, yeah, I am. I'm Dan. I'm Dan Perrins. I run something called Project Jeb, which is a walk that me and my dog do once a year to raise awareness about men's mental health. And usually it entails somehow getting to Toronto by way of various compass directions. Sometimes I just pick usually a different compass direction to do every year. I've been doing them since 2015. And basically it's just get the conversation started. Get folks talking and addressing the male suicide issue and the men's mental health issue. Um, I do dabble in other areas other issues that men face from womb to tomb, and some of them put men into a suicidal situation, such as job loss, divorce, parental alienation, housing loss. So yeah, it's I offer a smorgasbord of issues that men face.
That's amazing. And I'm so glad that you are out there doing this because I know how much it is needed. And I want to thank you first for doing this.
So
When
thank
you
you. How about a little rage to the powers that be that they dropped the ball for Canada's Sons?
Yeah, yeah. I know because I'm not gonna lie, like until I lost my brother, I didn't really understand the numbers because I hadn't had a reason to really kind of look into the statistics and stuff. And then when I realized that 8 out of every 10 suicides are committed by men, it broke my heart because we all look to men to be the stronger sex and like the ones that hold the families together and do all of the things, but then it makes me sad to know that they're not having their needs met, and they're doing like they're suffering with these issues alone, and they don't feel like they are safe enough to reach out or get the help or even talk about the issues that they're having because of the societal standards that are put on them.
Um, it's a bit of that for sure. There's some societal standards, and that should change. But it's always been women and children first, and so men last.
Yeah.
And let's not. Sorry, it's a nice kind of area, but it's a holiday, and there are some nice cars out there. Um, but let's not forget that those some of those standards and things that's what got us to where we are today. Um, you know, when we kind of started evolving and forming like tribes and small groups, we had to make decisions, and those were biological. My position is that those were decisions were heavily influenced by biology. Um, I can't get pregnant. Uh, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah. So I don't want to throw those away. But I do believe that yeah, men should be able to say, hey, this makes me angry. This gets me kind of pissed off a little bit, and I would like to do something about it. But then when they want to do something about it, there's nothing to do, and I find that that can be a frustrating situation. So I
Absolutely.
kind of said, all right, I'll make Project Jeb.
Yeah, I think it's important too for men to see other men out there advocating for men's mental health, because it's I have a friend who did an episode with us, and he said like he's always been afraid to talk to his friends because then they harass him and joke around and make fun of him, and then that just makes it even worse for him because then he really feels alone because he can't even get support from other men.
Um, so yeah, I'm before we go any further, I should probably go a little bit deeper into Project Jeb. So Project Jeb kind of is based on 4 pillars, and I'm gonna
I was
go
going to ask
quickly
about
through
the
them.
four pillars.
Yeah, yeah. So the 4 pillars are: the first pillar is the term toxic masculinity is toxic terminology. By labeling it as masculinity, we're undermining a young person's ability to develop a healthy ego. And would society stand for the term toxic femininity? Now, one of the toxic, quote unquote, toxic masculinity traits is keeping things in. I would point to women who teenage girls who seem to do cutting of their arms more because they keep things in, sort of deal. Couldn't society consider that toxic femininity? Therefore, the term toxic behavior should be used so that it
Absolutely.
it covers everybody, and we still are able to talk about that issue. Pillar 2 is to encourage our sons to talk a little bit more and talk at a younger age. Start talking at a younger age, and then it falls upon us to listen to them. Sometimes, there are issues. Maybe they've got a legitimate concern about an issue. Maybe it's not. But if we just hand wave it away as, Mr. Entitled toxic masculinity, we'll never know. And that does not let them know that they matter to us. Okay. Conversely, I would also put out there, get your daughters out there to, get a little dirt underneath their fingernails, get some, build some forts, enjoy those fun things that roughhousing that boys do.
Yeah.
You're not made of fine bone china. I'm sorry.
Teach them to bait their own hooks. Yep, I get it.
Yeah. So, and pillar 3 is that we need to add to the mental health system and make it more appealing to men in general, because we think a little bit differently. We like to do a solution and be productive about things. It makes us feel good to be productive. So this is generally speaking. It's not every man, but generally speaking, a generalization. So by making it more appealing, I believe that if we get men's hands busy, they are more likely to talk. So, a typical situation where a guy will talk is they're up to their up to their engines or elbows in an engine, and they'll turn and say, "Well, at my age, would be prostate numbers are coming back bad, but perhaps it could be a family issue or something like that. My son is failing, my daughter is failing in school, whatever." But we like to have our hands busy. And if anybody doubts my word and wants to do a little personal research, just go down to the nearest bar and you'll see guys' hands busy drinking, and they will talk.
Absolutely.
All
Yeah,
right.
women
And
tend
that
to be
leads
the talkers and men tend to be the fixers. They got to do something with their hands. Yeah.
yeah. So, and that leads into pillar 4, which is a simple one. And again, pillar 2 and pillar 4 buttress, they go across, they span both, everybody. And that substances aren't solutions. So that's the 4 pillars that Project Jeb runs on, and it runs on, and it usually, mostly, it's just putting up stickers in various areas, like by bridges and things like that, rivers and creeks and whatnot. And what it says is that the statistic, which is 75% of all suicides are men, that's the current one. It used to be higher. And then you can break that down by age groups. Around 20 to 25, it's about 80%. And there's also a peak around 50 for guys, that it peaks up around 80% too. There's some fluctuations in there. But yeah, so it makes that statistics known. It puts up the National Suicide Hotline number. So, you know, if a person calls that, they don't get me on the phone. They get an expert. I'm not an expert. I'm just a common sense kind of guy. And then it says men matter. It doesn't say men matter more, and it doesn't say men matter less. And then it says Project Jeb, those two hashtags. So that's it. And they're just a yellow, like a caution sticker. And you know, like I made them to kind of stick out and be like a life-saving lottery ticket. All they got to do is catch the right young man at the right time, and maybe they reach out and make a different choice that day.
Absolutely. I think it's important because when you are in crisis, right, you don't know how to access that information a lot of the time. So to know that it's there or have it there, or even like, you know, the kids nowadays are really good with their phones, just even snapping a picture and having it in their photo album for in case, right? Like it's important to have it out there.
Yeah, I give the stickers out freely. You know, people come up and I just give them away. Yeah, you know, that's kind of the best way that I figured that I'd be able to address this crisis. Literally, it's a crisis that's hitting Canada. And you brought up some numbers there earlier, and to hammer home those numbers more, so I'm going to go with, I believe the recent statistics are 12 people a day lose their battle, and let me see. So that would be about 8 men in Ontario, 8 and 1, I believe, if my math is correct, or something along them lines. Ontario has 39% of the population, so 39% of 8 would be about 3 and 1. That's the ratio. So there's about 3 men that lose hope in Ontario, and 1 woman that does it every day.
That's too many. Like that's too many. That's way too many.
And then to bring that back up to a federal level, if a person, and I would urge the listeners, do this yourselves, doubt my word on this, but if you were to go to the Government of Canada website and you were putting the term women's mental health, you'd get about somewhere around 34,000 returns. If you were put in the term men's mental health, you'd get about 22,000, 23,000 returns. Now, shouldn't Canada's sons' mental health matter as much as its daughters? In fact, don't the politicians swear an oath to uphold that Constitution of Canada, in which you will find equality mentioned 3 times, once in the preamble for the rule of law, once under Section 15 for equality of services, and once under Section 28 for no discrimination between the sexes?
Absolutely, it should matter. It does matter. Gender doesn't matter. Mental health does not discriminate. So neither should we.
Perhaps to phrase the question a little differently, mental health matters to us. Why does it matter to the politicians?
They don't care. They don't care.
Elections are always happening.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's the only time anything matters to them.
Yes. So that's a little bit about, you know, what I do and what I run. And so what else would you folks like to know? What do you think your listeners would like to know about me?
Well, first I want to say that I love the sticker idea. I think it's great, and I think that it probably is helping a lot of people out there just when they do see them. I do have a question. Do you ever like give them out in bulk? Can people come up to you and find you to find them, or is it just where they see them, they see them?
When I do the walks, I'm pretty hard to miss. I'm pretty much, my last method of transporting me and my dog, up to 400 miles. It was like a walking billboard. I'll send you a picture and you'll get an idea, but I believe Isabel has seen a picture of it before.
Yeah.
There's an article showing it in, I believe it's the Guelph Mercury Standard or something like that. But it basically, it was 6 feet long, about 4.5 feet high, and it was literally like a walking billboard. And it weighed a lot. It weighed a lot because I made a lot of it out of steel. So anybody come up to me, I just give them stickers. If they ask for them, I give them to them. And then, so I generally, I cannot condone vandalism. However, that being said, rumor has it that a really good spot for those stickers beyond, bridges and back of signs and stuff like that is it's above urinals in guys' bathrooms. Talk about a captive audience and a target audience.
Yeah.
I cannot condone anybody who puts them up there. However, it is a good idea.
Sure is.
I have to say I agree with that. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
And they're not bad looking stickers either, right? They don't have anything really offensive on it, unless, somebody finds those numbers offensive. I find them offensive, so I'm trying to get them, knocked down.
Jen, when I show you the sticker, you're going to know you've seen it before.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it before. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm probably gonna be like, yeah, I know that sticker, but
Yep.
yeah, right now. So
Yeah.
that's yeah. So you say you do a walk each year and you always head to Toronto?
Well, I always try and make it to Toronto. Yeah. For instance, a couple of years ago, I went down to Long Point, but I made the trip all the way back out to Toronto because Toronto's where Queen's Park is, right? And that's where our provincial politicians, our powers that be, our alleged betters. Yeah. So, I always like to engage in a little angry white man, just engage with folks, give the politicians a little screech at, and then, come back home.
Where's home?
Dundas, Ontario.
Yeah, it's a far walk, Jen.
Yeah.
Oh my
that's
God.
amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So if you know where Hamilton is,
I'm in Hamilton.
All right. So I'm Dundas, which is, so I'm about a mile west of McMaster University. And 5 years ago, me and my dog walked to Ottawa.
Oh, wow.
I think it was 2017, wow. Pretty sure. I walked to Niagara Falls, but then back up to Toronto there. Last year I just did a festival, and that was kind of interesting. It was different. I didn't quite make it to Toronto because a couple of things popped up, but I did do a festival, and that was kind of pretty good. The crowds were fairly receptive. The folks that the vendors that came to town, they were fairly receptive. But the organizers of the festival were like, "Hey, what are you doing? We don't want any buskers here." And I'm like, "I'm not a busker. Just 'cause, do not prejudge the way I look there. You know what I mean? I'm here for a reason. This is an opportunity to save lives. I'm here to save lives."
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, for sure. How long do you walk for? How long does it usually last?
Well, this year I'm just planning to do just to keep the tradition going, the walk going. I'm just going to do a quick walk to Toronto and back. And I remember one year I made Toronto and walking in, geez, it was 42 hours. I think I had a 50-pound pack on my back and a dog.
That is a quick walk when you go to Toronto and back. That's crazy.
Right.
No, just Toronto.
He says quick.
Oh, just Toronto. Just even just to Toronto.
Like
that's crazy. Yeah, that's cool.
And,
I like
with
that.
A pack on my back too. But you're not just free walking there. I had a 50-pound knapsack on my back, I think it was.
Yeah.
And the old cart, she weighed 300 pounds, bare empty. It took 3 guys to get it in the back of a pickup truck.
Wow.
it set out quite a, like I said, I'm pretty hard to miss. And when people hear that, what usually happens is like, okay, in the city, it's a little kind of, there's a lot of, um, I'm going to call it static. People are too busy. They pay attention. So the cities are kind of quiet for me, sort of deal. That's usually where I'll find a park and I'll kind of put myself down for a couple of days, and I will gas up on water and food, electricity for my batteries to run my cell phone and Google Maps and whatnot. But once I get out of the country, what seems to happen is that when I pass through one small village, they let the next village know, and so they pay it forward and pass the word along, and usually like, oh, we've been waiting for you, and really better receptions out in the rural areas than down in the city area.
That's actually really cool.
And it's yeah, and it's a different kind. The herd is there too. Make no mistake about it. The herd is there as well, but it's a different different atmosphere. The rat race ain't out there, so to speak.
Yeah.
I've been to Fergus, Orangeville as well a couple times. Fergus has I believe it's a 2.5% higher suicide rate than the national average. So there's a lot of hurt going on out there. And there's a couple of really wonderful organizations out there. The Cody Shepherd Project and Get in Touch for Hutch. They two young gentlemen who lost their battle, and so some individuals decided to do something about it. And they are wonderful people, and I try and run into them here and there, but I do keep up tabs on what's going on and what I find and what the data that I get.
I wonder why that is. Like, have you figured it out? Like what it is with Fergus?
If I was to think about it, they're just close enough to catch the big inner city of Guelph, but they're kind of a little bit more rural. So like the younger kids don't, the young men don't get all the opportunities that they feel that they're cheated on by not being in a bigger city. That's just me. Maybe like maybe that kind of makes a little bit more sense. Like I can't really say what else is going on out there.
Yeah.
If you wanted the best people to talk to, that would be people from Get in Touch with Hutch and the Cody Shepherd Project. They are the boots on the ground in there, and like I said, they do wonderful work, and they're far more knowledgeable than I am about that up there. I'm more try and concentrate more on a federal level and Ontario kind of down Hamilton area.
Yeah.
I know you do these walks for, to get the awareness out there and to start the talk and the movement and that. Is there any way people can donate or anything, or is that not part of it?
Well, I kind of self-fund sort of deal. I do, I funnel money that I get into Project Jab and to buy stickers and stuff like that. I'm sitting in a certain way that I'm able to do that. On the road, me and Charger always appreciate food and stuff like that, Tim Hortons coffees and stuff like that. But no, I'm after something far more valuable than money. I'm after their voice. It's far more valuable and far more powerful than these pieces of plastic we hold value in.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that one.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's not to say that people aren't extremely generous and wonderful on the road. I burn through a lot of calories, like an easy 6,000 to 8,000 calories. So that means that while I'm walking with that cart, it'll be a different cart, so I won't burn as much this year if I can get it done. If not, I'll put it into use next year. But so 6 to 8,000 calories a day plus water. And so that means that I need to be like, geez, half a dozen donuts for breakfast, and then something, milkshake at McDonald's, which will give me 1,150 calories, and something to complement that, some carbs, and so there is a fair bit of expense goes into just eating on the road, because if I can't carry it, then I got to buy it somewhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to let the listeners know where the
Pardon?
name Project Jeb came from?
So the first walk I did was with the dog that I had before Charger named Jeb. And I did the walk, and I received word that, one of the stickers that I'd put up, but it was an early one, had caught the eye of a young man who was right around Sheridan College, the north-south axis, Trafalgar Road, I think it is, over a QEW overpass. He seen one of the stickers that me and Jeb put up, and he decided not to become a statistic. So me and Jeb were gearing up for the second walk, and Jeb passed away, and I still did the walk anyways. And I thought, what better way to honor that dog, and that dog that helped, who was truly, at least that young man's, best friend at that point in time, because he was right there with me, put the stickers up. What better way to leave him a legacy? And so I just came up with Project Jeb, because that was his, what I called him. And that kind of leads into, be a force for good, be a Jeb Eye warrior, raise awareness about men's mental health, and screw you, House of Mouse, I don't give a damn about your trademarking issues.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that.
I weave humor into what I do when able. I don't, okay, so that, notice that I got some humor in there, but when I talk about statistics, they're cold hard facts, and those I try and hammer home the most.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it's all about building those connections as well, right? So you, like, even though you have to put out some serious conversations and stuff, you want it to be received well as well. So like, you have to be a jovial person, you have to be inviting, you know what I mean? And what is more inviting than humor, right? So for sure,
Yeah.
because it's all about building those connections.
Well, and also that little bit of laughter, that if they remember anything, just that
Yeah.
little bit of laughter at the end, raise awareness about men's mental health. That I'll take that as a win as well.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, it's insane to me. um I knew a little bit before you reached out to me because I had been doing my own research, but just being able to have conversations with you and speaking with you um as often as I have been, you've been really opening my eyes to like the severity of it all. Like, it's just mind-boggling to me.
There's a
Like,
ripple effect. I call it a ripple effect. It's like throwing a stone in a pond, because okay, so ground zero, that person dies. There's the immediate family, friends, and the co-workers and the neighbors, and it's just a ripple effect that just comes right out of any a
yeah.
loss of life due to suicide, and that's a male or female. But
And there's just so many other things that go with it as well, right? Like, that's how addiction starts and stuff like that as well, because people are trying to numb that pain. And
absolutely,
it's
that
scary. It's terrifying.
yeah, and sometimes I kind of believe that some of the folks that they just don't want to have suicide on their grave or on their death certificate, so they do a slow suicide through substance use.
I believe that's what my brother was doing before he actually did take his life. I believe he was, killing himself over time. Um, and he just couldn't take it anymore. He was just tired, and that was it, you know. And he decided that would be the end for him. But it's like, it's so hard to talk about because you know as well as I do that, like, that pain, yeah, is gone for our loved ones, but that pain transfers from them onto us. And now we're carrying that bag for the rest of our lives. You know what I mean? So it's it doesn't really alleviate anything. It just makes things worse. And I don't know.
It is a yeah. It's the grief from a suicide is. I kind of say that it puts a black dot on your soul.
Absolutely.
It's there's because because we like to believe as a society that we wouldn't want to create a situation where somebody would rather not be around. And
Yeah.
that and I would like to qualify that. I'm not talking about somebody who's dying from stage 4 cancer and has no hope left and nothing but grief coming, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to that. Yeah, okay, that I get. It's not, but it's not society that's putting that person in that spot. That's a disease. What
Absolutely.
we as a society like to have, we like to believe that we are so good, but you know what? You just take a walk downtown Hamilton and see how many times a person steps over somebody who could be alive, could be dead.
It's horrible. It's horrible just to even hear people talk about these individuals breaks my heart because when I look at them, I see my brother's face. My brother wasn't on the street. He wasn't homeless, but that is because my mom kind of enabled him because she was afraid of him having to live on the street. So, he had his apartment for the longest time, and then when he lost that, he lived with her. But it's like, when I look at these individuals, I could see my brother in each and every one of them, and they're humans and they're beautiful. And if you take the time to even just sit with them and talk to them and hear their stories, they're just like you and I. One bad fucking day, and any one of us could be there.
They well, I last I heard we're only a couple. Most people are only a paycheck or two away from homelessness.
Exactly.
And then hey, you hit the streets, and I broke bread with a lot of homeless people, and I usually give them things. Sometimes it's food. If I've got extra food, I don't, somebody brings me a couple of, dozen apples or something like that. I won't be eating all the apples. Okay, here I'll share it with them. Socks I'll
Yeah.
give out to them. Jackets, if I'm done and I don't need a jacket at the end of a walk, I've given them away too. But once they hit the streets, then it's it's kind of like, why bother? If I can't even keep a roof over my head, why bother? Why bother fighting for anything?
Yeah. And what people don't understand is a lot of these individuals are not addicted to substances before they hit the streets. They get out there and it's more accessible and it's around and they're depressed and they're going through a lot. So they may, hey, okay, I'm going to just take my pain away for the day, and then it becomes an addiction, and then you have problems on top of problems. So what people are not understanding is that mental health is exasperating the addiction problem is exasperating the mental health. They're hand in hand. You can't deal with one without the other.
Yeah, yeah. I would put out there that there's a certain population of the substance people of substance that got there not through a mental health thing, but for a uh, how would I sloppy prescription
That's how my brother
prescribe.
started. Yep.
Yeah. Sloppy
His doctor got him
prescribing,
hooked on
lack of
fentanyl.
monitoring.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sitting on a log here, and yeah. My old bony ass is falling asleep on me. Sorry.
It's okay. But yeah, that's how my brother ended up because he has severe scoliosis his whole life almost. Like he was young and had to have a back brace and those things. But when he got into his late teens, early 20s, they put him on oxycodone and then whatever they upped up to fentanyl patches. So once they realized that he was misusing his patches, they cut him off the program, like the pain management program or whatever, and he started going to look on the streets for fentanyl. So they created the addiction.
Yeah, there's a large lawsuit. I don't know how it finished, but against the Sacklers who did the OxyContins. The the Sackler family, I believe that they were the ones who were pushing the OxyContins and oxycodons, and then manipulating the statistics on addiction rates and whatnot.
Yeah,
Wow.
there's a documentary out on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Hey,
watched it.
I
It's
just noticed
crazy.
Oski Wee Wee there, Jen.
Your shirt,
Yeah.
Oscar. Today's game day.
Yeah, there's a game on today. Yeah.
Labor Day Classic.
I ain't watching it, but you know.
Hey, we should, Hamilton, we should be proud of Hamilton for,
Oh, yeah.
it's proud of all its accomplishments, and we should also finger wag at all the mistakes we made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hide
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I always say. I love my city, but guess what? We have to do more for our people. These are Hamiltonians that are living in the street. So, like right now, I have my family and friends and stuff trying to pull together any kind of warm winter clothing, blankets, tarps, sleeping bags, whatever, to try and get them out there to these encampments this year because nobody wants to be sleeping in below 20 weather outside. Like, it's
Now would be
reality. I don't care. Like,
if you're pulling things together, now would be a good time to get those hand and foot warmers because they're out of season.
the what, sorry?
The hand and foot warmers. They're the little packets, so you give them a little shake, and they
Oh, yeah.
yeah. If somebody sees a deal on them because they're out of season before October hits, sort of deal, that's where you'll find deals.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna look. I usually get those from Costco, actually.
And then raid all the oh geez, what the heck, yard sales. Yeah, you'll find some things there. And value villages and Bible for mission places. You will be able to find, sleeping bags, decent stuff in there at a good price. How do I know this? You'd be surprised how many times I've gone shopping on the road.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I just think as humans, like, we need to support our brothers and sisters, like I don't know how people think it's okay to like really dehumanize these individuals. Like they're humans, just like you or I. Like they have the right to live and survive and have their needs met. The government has dropped them on their face.
Well, okay, so yeah, we do need to look at them as humans. That's why you will hear me call them people of substance, and I don't say addicts because I find that dehumanizing. But people of substance lets them know that they're people right off the hop.
Absolutely.
And then I have said that I break bread. I live by the Dundas beer store, and so there is a substantial population of people who enjoy their beer a little too much. I'm going to phrase it that way.
Yeah.
And I always say hi to them with my dog. Sometimes I give them a word like, hey, maybe calm it down a little bit. We can hear you across the creek being too loud. And my buddy has children. So like they don't need to hear those words. Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody cares when you're enjoying a beer. Just don't be a nuisance, please.
Yeah.
And then, but again, you know, I have coffee in the morning sometimes with them. A couple guys I've picked up off the ground because, well, you know, they are what they are. But
Yeah.
I never look at them as less than human.
No. No. I actually just did a webinar with Mothers Stop the Harm, and it was all about that, the terminology and stuff, and changing the wording, you know what I mean, because it is dehumanizing. Yeah, it's not okay, and it's like we're so used to it, right? Like addiction addicts, like whatever, but it's like, yeah, if we want them to feel like somebody, we have to treat them like somebody, and that starts with using the proper wording as well. So
Churches are good too. The churches that have the you know, the dinners, they're good. And you know, I'm not trying to push religion, just that you know, they have a softer touch, a softer sell.
Absolutely.
You know, the people who are out there and with that struggle, they can get the finger wagging everywhere, you know, any day, anytime, anywhere. Like
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure that they get it every time that they're out on the streets.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
you're right.
Let me ask you
They
this.
need
What
that
would you say?
non-judgmental compassion. Sorry, John.
Go ahead.
They need that non-judgmental compassion. You know, you're not an addict to me. You're not a nuisance to me. You're a human being. Come and have dinner. Let me, you know, care for you for the moment. That's what they need.
Well,
And it
let's
makes
feel
a
like
huge difference.
yeah, treat you just like a friend, sort of, you know, instead of treating you as less than a friend or something like that. It was like, oh, a haircut and a shave. You'd be surprised how, you know, how much that, or you know, that's for guys, but you know, I'm sure that you know, getting a mani pedi or something like that for a girl or anything like that, that just brings them that little bit closer to feeling human. Because I'm sure that
Absolutely.
they, you know, they feel less than. So these are things that, you know, geez, you know, it'd be nice if I know that there's a YouTuber out there that that's all he does is go around and give you know, homeless people haircuts.
Yeah. I've
It's like,
seen them.
yeah, right
Yeah.
on.
And it
Yeah,
is
I
great
think that's a
because I
great idea.
struggle.
Sorry, and I think that you're right. Like when people do, like they get, a fresh haircut or a shower or whatever, it makes them feel better right off the hop. And we don't do a lot of that. And I know at one point there was something down at Gage Park where a bunch of people got together to give haircuts and that for, the people that were living on the street and that. And a lot of people were really against it, saying like we're putting our energy in the wrong space and all that shit. And I was just like, what are you guys talking about? Like, these are humans too, and like they deserve to feel good
Yeah.
and they deserve to feel pampered and to have, and it's going to help them feel better in the moment. And why would we deprive them of that? And so I just, yeah.
Kick it on even further on down the road. Okay, so let's say, you know, young woman or young man or whatever gets a haircut or gets, you know, gets a haircut, gets, you know, a little bit more presentable looking for a job interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because they don't know
Exactly.
what that person is going to do with that little bit of humanity shown.
Mm-hmm.
No, because you hear people say, oh, get a job. But they don't understand the barriers that these individuals have and the reason that they can't get a job. They don't have electricity to charge their phones or plug in a friggin' alarm clock. They have nowhere to shower. They have nowhere to wash their clothes. they're not getting haircuts. Like, you know what I mean? These were all barriers that stopped them from finding work.
I would also posit that the job market ain't really been that decent since NAFTA,
Yeah.
North American Free Trade Act. And
Yeah.
you know, I'm kind of dating myself, but if you could look back, we used to have, you know, a thriving steel industry and, you know, auto industry and stuff like that because we forced those companies to keep those plants here in Canada. And then all of a sudden free trade went through and geez, you know, it's an awful big profit margin compared to, you know, $100 a day compared for a Canadian worker compared to $20 a day for a Mexican worker.
Yeah, I know.
And then to take that one even a little bit further, it was, I believe, the dishonorable Paul Martin who put this all through. And the Martin family owned, I think it was Canada's steamship. And as soon as that went through, he dropped flying a Canadian flag. So that meant he had to pay Canadian taxes and Canadian workers and things like that. It's a shipping line, Canadian Great Lakes shipping line, I believe it was. So he dropped the Canadian flag as soon as NAFTA went through, and he fired up or he flew a flag of convenience, which means didn't have to pay Canadian taxes, didn't have to pay for Canadian wages, didn't have to pay a whole bunch, and made a good, you know, great big gobs of money there.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's like there's like Jen and I always speak and we always say there's not one solution to these problems, but there wasn't one mistake that caused these problems either. So we have to deal with them, but we have to come at it with like a million different solutions. It's the only way, like, you know, and it's not like it's going away, but we have to figure out how to make it better because we all know the system's broken. It's been broken for years and nobody's done anything. I'm tired of just hearing the system's broken, the system's broken. Yeah, I know the fucking system's broken. But what do we do now? Where do we go? Like, how do we push through, you know?
Well, in my mind, I just kind of went, you know, I get really tired of wasting my breath on politicians. So in my mind, I just went, you know what, I'll just start at the bottom. I'll just start talking to neighbors, and from neighbors, I'll start talking to strangers, and from strangers, I'll just talking to, you know, start taking it on the road, put stickers up, and yeah, it's gonna, you know, politics will follow the majority of the crowd. So if we build a big enough crowd, they will follow us.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I love that strategy. I think that's like the way we need to go and I think, you know, it's a lot of people complaining about the problem and this and that and complaining about what's going on, but nobody is giving solutions. And then they want like the politicians to have solutions, but like none of us have any solutions. So why should the politicians have solutions? Like, but no one's talking to nobody, right? Like everybody's just kind of passing the buck is the way I'm looking at it, instead of really getting out there and talking to everybody like you, Dan, are doing yourself. And so that's why I think like that's the work that needs to be done, and it needs to be done like you and Judy, and like there needs to be more people of that because you guys are talking to the people who are living it and who are in it, and that's who we need to hear from. We don't need to hear from people who are living in like high mansions and all this stuff. Like they don't understand it. And so in saying that too, like then we also have to look at when we go to look for the politicians to make the solutions. Well, how do we make them really know what the solutions are if they're not living it? So it's kind of like a catch-22. Like we want the solutions and the politicians to be the solutions and everything. However, we're not really giving anything either. And so I think it's something where we need to all really work together on. And that really is starting at the bottom, like you said, Dan, and working our way up because it starts with us.
I'm going to give you an example. Local politician, I'm not going to out them. I had some words with them at this year's festival. and one of their aides went, "Well, you know that so and so made the suicide hotline a 3-digit number." I said, "Yeah, I know about it. Don't see it advertised, do you?" So, in my mind, a politician is willing to do half a job when a full job is needed, as long as it gets them the votes.
Yeah, I agree.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense, but I think that is like with all humans. And I'm not somebody who likes politicians or anything, but I do think that that is just, it's kind of like all humans. But, and sometimes I think we have to remember that like politicians are humans as well. And so even though they signed up for the job and that, there's going to be things that do come up that they just don't know the answer to. And sometimes they need to, and what they need to do is look at us for the answer, and that's what they're not doing. And I think that's what they need to start doing, is looking at the people and saying, like, where do we get the answers? Like, I need your help, instead of acting like they
Perhaps
know everything.
perhaps I could rephrase it a little bit better. Okay, so they've got this 3-digit number. How come it's not being advertised? Like they now, you know, what you get from the politician is, look what we did. We made it a 3-digit number. Great. Where is it?
Yeah.
How do we hear about it? How do we get that out to the masses? How do we get it to the people who need it?
They do just enough to shut us up. To say they've done it.
Lip service. Well, good look
Yep.
what we did, but it's just half a job. And you know, as soon as that becomes live, okay, well, I'll be putting that on. I'll swap out the sticker, you know, the number on the stickers. Which, by the way, I'm working on a UK version of it, and I need a American version and a Aussie version and a Kiwi version of it. Yeah. So I need to get those numbers kind of set up, because I don't. Somebody asked, you know, how do people get their hands on these stickers? I believe you asked. I don't know if you did, but I did a podcast earlier there. And really, I don't care to deal with the sort of deal. So here's the sticker blanks. Now just go print them up and just put it under the hashtag, so other folks, you know, so that Jedi warriors know that it's working. In other words, I want to provide the sticker design for free, and then people can just put them out, print them off, and put them out there wherever they want.
I love that idea. I really do. That's a great idea. Because it doesn't discriminate, right? And I think that's another thing we need to really realize, is like there's so many people out there that feel like mental health isn't going to happen to them. They're not going to go through it. They're not going to end up homeless. They're not going to end up addicted. But you don't know. You really don't know until you're in a situation, and then you're like, oh shit, like here it is happening to me. And I'll tell you, it happens to all of us. I was like, oh, I'll never ever get addicted to pills, like ever. Like I saw my sister, I saw people I know get addicted. I saw them be that like, I'll always falling asleep while they're talking to you. And I was like, I'll never look like that. Like that will never be me. And then a few years later, look at that. It was me. Right. And it was like, and so you just never know. And so have that compassion. And like Isabel said, you never really looked at the people on the streets until something happened with your brother. And that's what's going on in our society. Like you're not the only one. Like that's how a lot of people are. And so it's like now you want to wake them up, those people who haven't experienced it.
Yeah, the thing is, like I was never mean to anybody, but I just didn't notice it.
No.
I was like busy. I was like, you know, in my own lane. Like I just didn't even look outside of myself or my life, right? And now I tell all of the naysayers on my social medias and stuff, because there are a few out there who always got something to fucking say, you know what I mean? And I'm like, listen, if you can't help, at least don't harm. Don't make things worse for them. You don't have to help them. I'm not forcing you to do anything you don't want to do. But if you cannot help them, at least do not harm them. They don't need your bullshit. Get a job, you fucking junkie. Like, they don't need to hear that shit. So if you have nothing nice to say, and maybe I'm aging myself with this, you know, but if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. That's what my dad used to tell me every day of my life.
I would probably say, maybe say shoot for a job. instead of shooting up. But there's a long way between the two.
Absolutely. And I don't know anybody who has woke up one day and said, oh, woohoo, I want to become an addict. No, there are core wounds, core traumas, unresolved issues that are forcing them to numb the pain, whether it be physical or emotional.
Yeah.
We have to get to the core.
I'm of the age right now where I worry about my friends and family's kids. It has struck a friend's child, her firstborn son, and it's horrible. And I have relatives where their sons are coming into a dangerous time in their lives, and it starts around 16.
Yeah.
So the high school age there, that's where things start to seem to go a little wonky in the numbers between young men and young women. So I'm kind of, I have to say that I'm lucky. I didn't, I was kind of a little wild once upon a time. Not so much anymore. A little bit of wisdom comes with the age, and also Mother Nature lets your body know that, hey, yeah, that half bottle of booze ain't gonna, you ain't gonna snap back like you used to.
Yeah. I was never much of a drinker, but I used to smoke a lot of weed when I was younger, but it was never a problem for me. Do you know what I mean? Like I could smoke it and then not smoke it for 3 months, and then I could smoke it for 3 months and then not touch it for a year. So it was a substance that I used, but it was never an issue for me. And not everybody can say that. Some people have addictive personalities, right? So the second that they pick up their first joint, that's it. Like they're never putting it down, you know?
Yeah. Cigarettes are a nasty one. That was one
Yeah.
I just took a sidestep on. I still like my nicotine, and I like my
I'm
coffee,
guilty of that too. I'm a smoker, so yeah.
and I like my caffeine, and I like my steaks, sort of deal. I like to eat well. So, I kind of funneled. I was actually talking to somebody who's first the substance today, and I said you need to find that hole, that vacuum that you got that you're trying to fill with illicit substances. You need to find the reason why you're trying to fill that vacuum. Number one, and then number two, you need to fill that vacuum with something good. So with me, steaks. I like to do physical challenging stuff. Yeah, that's kind of a little bit of where I kind of sit. I'm not a counselor, but I also can see there's certain hallmarks of a short future. There is a certain look on people after they've used for a certain amount of time. The skin just kind of sinks in a little bit, and it is what it is. But yeah, I had a conversation today with a gentleman who I know, and I hope I said, you ever think about getting into rehab and trying to get out of it? And he said, well, where would I go? I said, well, first you would go to your doctor. And St. Joseph's has and I know you have history with St. Joe's, but they do have addiction research there. But the options are limited. Me personally, I'd like to see a farm with a fence around it. We'll detox you first, then we're gonna treat you. If if you're open to it, we're gonna if you want to take these steps, we'll detox you first, then we'll give you a trade, and then we'll help you get into interviews.
Can we do that, Dan? Can we? I would love to.
I don't have, what I mean? I don't have the means to that, but this is something I see that works. And something that I hear, it's an E word, and it's anecdotal, A word, sorry. Anecdotal evidence. So this is what I hear anecdotal evidence speaking. I haven't looked at the statistics. I have glanced through them. I know that COVID has put a terrible price
Strain
on,
on everything.
on human life. And because I was, kind of researching some substance abuse statistics, before COVID struck, it was about 10 people a day were dying from opiate overdose. And then it peaked during the lockdowns in 2021, it peaked at 22 or 21 a day. And then now it's back down to 20 a day. So I'm sure that the politicians that be will say, see, we knocked it down by 2 after we after we doubled it.
So in North America, Canada, and United States, every 11 minutes, somebody is dying of fentanyl poisoning.
Yeah,
Every 11 minutes. And that's just fentanyl poisoning.
So to put it on the scale of things, all right. Okay, let's go with the baseline of car fatalities, all sexes. Recently, it's pretty much on par, just male suicides alone. And then male suicides and suicides, all suicides are getting destroyed by fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's 12 a day, it's 20 a day. So 12 a day suicides, all suicides, there's 20 a day that are dying from opioid use.
Yeah. So if you say 11, every 11 minutes, so that's what? 6 an hour?
6 an hour, yeah. Times 24 hours in a day, 120-ish.
Yeah.
And usually United States rocks us by, we're only 10% of their population, so our statistics are about 10%. Yeah, the numbers tick out. So about 200 a day across North America, 180 down the States, 20 up here.
Yeah. That's insanity.
It is. It absolutely is. The other solution, folks wouldn't like my other solution, and that's, you get caught producing it or selling it, distributing it, 25 years. That's it. No ifs, ands, or buts.
What I believe too. I believe that too. Like it's crazy. And now they have this stuff that's laced with xylazine, which they're calling tranq, but they're calling it the zombie drug, and it's being found in the supply in Hamilton now.
Yeah. And then an ambulance driver told me that something else that they're kind of enjoying, and I use the term enjoying loosely, is that they're mixing PAMs, clorazepam, with the opioid, so that
fentanyl and benzos,
and so that it doesn't the Narcan doesn't work.
No, and the Narcan doesn't work on the xylazine either.
Yeah, yep, that's right.
The scary thing is that with the benzos, they cannot just stop taking them. It will kill them.
Yeah, it's a crazy situation we've allowed. I'm going to say Big Pharma to put us in.
Right?
With the help of the politicians. Big Pharma put it in there.
And the doctors and everybody else that's pushing this shit.
Well, I like to hope that the average GP is just too swamped with everything to be able to read up properly on the studies. And they just go on trust of somebody who might be a rep of Big Pharma there. I know my doctor has like 1,200 patients. That's a hell of a lot of patients for one doctor.
My doctor's great. Like my doctor's amazing. I suffer from severe anxiety and I do have some depression and stuff there, but like he'll give me a 3 month supply of my anti-anxiety medications, but then he gives me 10 lorazepams per month for when I'm
Yeah.
having like panic attacks. He said they're so addictive. I'm not doing it to you. Like he's really hard on what he will give people and what he won't. And I'm fine with that because I'm not one who takes pills anyways, but like if I'm having a severe panic attack, like that's the only thing that really kind of calms it down, you know?
I just don't want to. I don't want to believe that doctors have no humanity, sort of deal. I just hope that it's more laziness on their part, not doing due diligence to the
Well,
research, and
some of these
coupled
pain
with,
doctors just don't care. They're in it for the money.
but also coupled with the fact that they just our healthcare system just ain't as robust as it used to be. The doctors aren't there.
No.
That's 1,200 patients. That's a hell of a lot of patients for one doctor to manage.
Yeah, it's
And yeah, I'm not
taxed.
in there. I'm not in there, once a week or something like that, but it's still quite a bit to manage.
Absolutely. Our system is taxed, all of it, even the hospitals. Like you said, I have my own issues with St. Joseph's Hospital, but it's not even them I really have the problem with. Like, yes, they created the situation, but it's not on them. It's on the politicians because all of the
Somewhere further up
bureaucracy
the
and
chain.
everything, like they're overworked. They're, you know, yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they
I
can
and
think
only
that's
something
just
do
us
like,
passing the buck again, right? Like I don't
yeah,
think anybody's realizing like why are we blaming the politicians for how the doctors are behaving and how the doctors are giving out medication? Like that's just to me ludicrous. Like that's just passing the buck. We're
because
just
the
doing what
system is
everybody else is
taxed
doing.
because
Like the doctors are
the
responsible for what the
politicians are
doctors are doing. The doctors are responsible for doing the research. The doctors are responsible for saying I can't take no more patients. The doctors are responsible for the doctor's actions. Period. The politicians aren't responsible for that. The doctors are. The addicts are responsible for the addicts' responsibility for their behaviors. We're always trying to pass the buck. And this is like for everything in life. Like we're always just trying to pass the buck. Nobody ever wants to take the responsibility and like because it takes hard work and it takes like, oh shit, like sometimes I fucked up and that feels like uncomfortable and feels shitty. But that's where we all need to start to step up and say, okay, we're going to do the hard work. We're going to take the responsibility. Where can I do the work? Not the politician, not the doctor, not the whoever else, the pharmaceutical, whatever. How can I do the work? And then the pharmaceutical person go, how do they do the work? The doctors say, how do I do the work? And everybody just start taking responsibility for them. Because again, then all we ever have is let's talk about the problem. Let's talk about the problem. Let's talk about the problem. Well, fuck the problem. Let's talk about the solution.
I
absolutely, but
agree, but we have a Ministry of Health,
yeah,
and the Ministry of Health
and
is
the
supposed to
funding's
ensure
got
that
to
we
come
don't
from
get bad
somewhere.
doctors. Where do how do we fix that? I don't know. Like yeah, we got to talk about it, but how where does find a good doctor? But the alternative is no doctor.
Yeah, and
I
not
mean,
even that. Like even with the hospitals and stuff like that, the funding's got to come from somewhere, right? And if they keep cutting the funding and cutting the funding and taxing the system, like the hospitals and the nurses and the doctors, like that's where problems start. Like that's where people slip through the cracks because the system is overwhelmed because the funding is being cut. Look at all those nurses that just got fired because they refused to take this friggin' vaccination. My friend's daughter just gave birth to her son last week, and there was one nurse on the floor, and she was asked to not push for over 45 minutes because there was only one nurse there. And the nurse said, please go and make your complaints. She's like, we're understaffed, and like, I can't be in two places at one time. So these are the
I,
problems that, the government has the potential to resolve.
I think where it is, where that happy solution median would be, is that doctors that do speak up need our support. So the doctors that raise the alarm about the Sackler and the OxyContin thing, they need to know that they're not out on a limb by themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is, the personal responsibility thing. But also, Jen, you had mentioned that you had seen the Sackler movie there, and in that documentary, they mentioned how they paid off unscrupulous doctors to give it glowing reviews. And if you're a doctor and you need to make up some time somewhere, and you get another doctor's, like, a professional kind of okay, or thumbs up on a product, yeah, I find, like, I just don't want to think that all doctors are that bad.
Yeah.
Does
And
that
I
make
don't think
sense?
they are. Oh, yeah, for sure. And I don't think they are, right? And I think like that's the thing, right? Like, and it's hard to say like who's in it for the money, who's in it for the patients, who's in it for that. Because I think even like each doctor will say, like, I'm in it for the patients, and they really do believe they're in it for the patients, right? And sometimes their own lines get blurred, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And again, this goes back to, like, geez, it goes back to the 70s when they started screwing around with OHIP and stuff like that. I have the benefit of living through some of the history there, and so I have perhaps a different view. But I would urge people to, look back, see what changes were made and how they were made and who made them and why they made them, and then, start screaming about, raise a little hell about it.
Yeah. And it's all these pain clinics and stuff they have going now. Like, that's where all of these people, like my brother, got addicted to oxys and Percocet and the other ones.
Fentanyl, Oxycontin, Oxycontin,
Yeah.
Tylenol,
The other pills, they're like
hydromorphs.
hydromorphs, and then the fentanyl patches. Like, these pain clinics are just shoving this shit out the door every day to like hundreds of patients, and it's like, that's where the problem started, but they don't have to take any accountability for what they've done to these people. But if you're caught misusing them, you're cut from the program, and then what? Like, where does the accountability come in?
Yeah,
You're
that is
creating,
that's kind of a crazy situation. If the person qualifies, to cut them from the program, that gives them zero options. Negligence comes to mind. There's a duty of care owed by doctors, and it's above and beyond what we as a society kind of take as just kind of good neighborly things. They owe a duty of care to their patients.
I think that anybody who is prescribed heavy duty like oxys or Percocet or whatever should automatically be like, okay, we are giving you this for pain, but we're going to do a precaution, and you're going to have some coaching, some therapy, something, so that we can make sure that we don't get addicted to these medications. And let's take some precautions, but that's not really happening, right? Like, here's your pain meds. Oh, now you're getting addicted. Oh shit! Like, now we'll just take you off or switch you here, and then it just screws them. And then when when the doctors take them off, they take them off and don't really give them anywhere to go, or they give them somewhere where they go and do Suboxone or they do methadone, but they don't. There's no therapy. There's no anything of like, how do we really get it off? Like these Suboxones, that is just like a band-aid, right? Like we need to really do it. And I think that one of the things is, number one, stop prescribing all pain medication to everybody, and like have it where it's like the people who are dying, the people who really need it, that's when you prescribe it. And you prescribe it with with some therapy, with some coaching, with something, so that they can have
with
they can
physio,
have
with
that.
massage, with chiropractic. Like these are all ways to manage pain, but
Yeah,
they're not
again,
What
pain.
did they do before they
That's
didn't have this pain medication? What did they do before they didn't have the pain medication, right? Like it's
yeah.
not like it just came out of nowhere. Like there was pain beforehand. People dealt with it. But now, because we brought this medication and everything else, it's like, oh, we can never deal with the pain. Well, why the fuck not? We did it fucking 25,000 years ago, whatever it was. You know what I mean? Like,
well, we went
And why
a
are they
little more
not doing rehab?
natural.
Like
mhm.
We went a more natural route. The Indians used to use willow bark, which is where you get a form of aspirin. Um, we just had, we did have different techniques. But
Yeah.
then, man stuck his finger in Mother Nature's pie and said, I can do it better, but apparently not.
Exactly my point. Like, let's go back to some of those natural ways of that we're helping in that, and start bringing those things back.
And they took chiropractic used to be covered by OHIP, and then they took it off the schedule. You used to be able to get a certain amount of chiropractic visits per year, sort of deal, and then they changed. They scrapped it. You know what? I'd be willing to bet there's a whole bunch of people out there that are no longer able to do whatever work that they were able to do with chiropractic help. So now they've got a job change, possibly less income, or they just went, you know what? I'll just deal with the pain, buy some Tylenol threes off the street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. All of those, like the osteopath, the massage therapist, the chiropractors, like none of these things are paid, like are covered anymore. None of them. But and even physio, but they can all help somebody who is in pain. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, let's make them pay for all of these services, but let's just throw some pills at them. The
Yeah,
pills, the medication should be the last option.
yeah, it should. Well, again, there should be expert kind of things. You break a leg, okay, you're going to get a week's worth of Tylenols to help you with the pain, and then after that, the bones have started knitting, and then a couple of Advils, and you should be fine per day, sort of deal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But just for any, I got a sprained ankle. Well, okay, all right, ice.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, and if you don't like ice, just grab a bag of peas, frozen peas, and that works wonderful too. Tensor bandages, like I'm, I've got an issue that goes on with my back, and it kind of limits certain things that I can do for extended periods of time. So, all right, if certain positions, basically, cement work bothers my back. So if I have to do that, then I kind of try and take little breaks where I'm touching my toes or trying to stretch those muscles out because they get cramped up right fast. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I'm not quite sure whether that's the Mitchell bomber or the Lancaster. Um, I love the sound of those Merlin engines.
I can't hear it.
Can't pick it up. Okay. Well, you know what I'm talking about, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
The National Airplane or War Museum up on Mount Hope. There, they've got one of the only two operational Lancasters, and they've got a Mitchell bomber, which is a two-engine one, and I believe they both run a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. They are something to behold. And okay, we can tie that right into our topic du jour. The disproportionately high numbers of suicide and substance abuse in the military.
Oh yeah, big time. vets that come back for sure. Absolutely. It's
And I
horrible.
I would hate to tell the the mental health community, military ones, that shipping our boys off to enjoy a few drinks on a tropical island is not there.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not.
That's what they did at one time. Oh, okay, stressed out. Okay, here, go to Cyprus. Here's a couple of 40s.
Yeah, it's not.
No, that's the opposite.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
believe I, I'm going to go a little bit further on that. So the Afghan conflict, last time I checked, it was around 57 or 59 service personnel that made it back from the conflict but didn't survive the battle. That's a deplorable statement. As a matter of fact, I believe there's more self-induced deaths than there was casualty deaths over in the for Canadian soldiers. I believe that it's either there or very close to it.
Yeah.
breaks my heart when you hear this stuff,
Yeah, for sure. Me too.
So I
Well,
don't,
I'm a little jaded. I've been at it for 10 years, so.
No, I'm so thankful because, like I said, I was just thrown into this in April. So I'm researching, I'm learning, and, me and Jen are just out there and trying to do as much as we can. So to have somebody who, like you, who's been in the field and, feet on the ground for the last 10 years, like, I'm thankful for it. Like, I'm so grateful that you reached out to me. Um, because like it helps to know, and it helps to know that I'm not alone either in this fight, that Jen's not alone in this fight. Like, it's daunting at
There
times.
is. Oh, absolutely it is. And uh, unfortunately, we as humans tend to remember our losses rather than our wins.
Absolutely.
And that's something that, anybody who tosses their hat into this ring should realize, that you can't win them all. And it is no matter how much you do try and how much you make the right calls, you can't just win them all. It's
No,
a sad reality at this point in time.
I know.
so I have to get going, guys, but I want to kind of, I guess, end with a couple of questions for you, Dan. Like, one would be like, what would you tell those people out there that are kind of like living in kind of like a blind spot, not really kind of just stepping over those people that are in need of help?
Well, somebody's son or daughter, they got a family out there, they probably got friends. And as Hemingway once said, ask not for whom the bell tolls, for one day it may toll for thee. It may come visit your family, it may come visit your friends, it may come visit your coworkers.
So true.
For real.
Absolutely. And what would you tell those people that are out there and they're suffering right now, and they, maybe they want help, but they don't know where to get it, or they just, what would you say to those people?
Well, if those people are finding a day too much to get through, try half a day. If that's too much, try an hour. If that's too much, just try a minute. I guarantee things will change, and give it a little time. Do not make a permanent decision on what is most likely a temporary solution. And I guarantee you, you may think that the world may be a better place without you on it. I guarantee you it will not be. You will leave behind a bucket full of tears and sorrow for others to carry for the rest of their lives.
So true.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Thanks so much, Dan. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about Project Jeb and, just all of these huge, what I think are huge topics that really need to be talked about. And so I really appreciate all the work you're doing. Isabel, anything you want to add, say?
No, just that I appreciate you, Dan, and I'm so thankful that you reached out when you did. You were kind of like a guardian angel without even realizing it. Honestly.
Not a problem. I'm so sad. I'm so sorry. This awfulness visited your doorstep. Yeah, I truly am. Uh, I there's not much else I can. I can't put a silver lining on that cloud.
No, I know.
But I will say, I encourage folks to become Jedi warriors, be a force for good, raise awareness about men's mental health, and screw you, House of Mouse.
Yes. I love it. Thank you so much, Dan. And you guys, if you guys have a story, if you have an idea, an opinion, please reach out to us. I'm gonna put in Dan's like following and everything so you can follow him on social media and see what he's up to and his walk and all that jazz. And of course, Isabel's information, my information, all that stuff. I really do appreciate all you guys that are listening. Yes, Dan.
Can I put in one more thing? I do
Absolutely.
some writing for Male Psychology magazine, and they're out of Great Britain. And if you put that into Google, you will find them, and I'll send you guys the link.
Yeah, for sure. We'll put that in there for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, guys, until next time, have a good one. We love you all. Remember, no matter what you're dealing with, you are somebody. Love you all. Bye.